Assembly Bill 1333 that was introduced at the start of this year, limiting your opportunity to protect yourself by making California a duty to retreat state, is dead for the 2025 session. Let's talk about it. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel today. That is right, there is cause for celebration as AB 1333 is now gone. Pretty early in the legislature for us to see one of these really bad bills go by the wayside. But to talk about it, we have brought on our legislative director here at CRPA. He's also the host of Firing Line Radio. You can catch him at 1 o'clock every Saturday on AM 590, The Answer. That is Rick Travis. Rick, thanks for being with us today.
Pleasure to be here today, of all days.
Indeed, yeah, a little bit of smiling. It's a great way to kind of start March here, as we just saw a lot of these bill numbers finalized. For those who haven't been following along, Rick, can you go ahead and just let us know? I mean, we did a couple videos about this. Assembly Bill 1333 looked like it was going to be one of the more sinister bills this year. Can you just tell the audience who maybe hasn't been following along what was this bill and why was it so bad?
The bill was designed, well, number one, it was, I'm going to talk about a little bit about the assembly member it brought forward, Assemblyman Zabur, who's out of AD 51, which is the Hollywood Hills area of Southern California. And this bill was to redefine homicide here in California. Homicide in of itself is not a crime. Murder is a crime. But he was using that redefinition to actually restructure what your ability was to defend yourself at your home, on your front property, how you could defend, who you could defend, and kind of the rules for this. And this was going to give you basically a mandate that you had to retreat pretty much in every situation or be guilty of a crime. A coalition that became quite broad, quite quick, that CRPA has been talking to people across the country. We've involved martial artists. We've involved just about everybody that you could think of involving. We went full force on this. We have a broad-based coalition of law enforcement organizations. The Police Officers Union, PORAC, came out very strongly against this. I want to give a shout out to every one of our ledge teams across the state of California that CRPA has worked with in developing over the past few years. Those members went out and spoke to their assembly members, their senators, their board of supervisors, their sheriffs, multiple meetings, which brought a lot of heat on Assemblyman Zabur. What was interesting was how he did this, Kevin. It's almost comical. So evidently someone late in the night said, yeah, this is no bueno. We're never going to win this. So he decides to pivot and pull the bill, which effectively kills it. But before he did it, he amended the bill. And people are like, wait, what's he doing? Well, what his quote, and I'll quote him, he said, unfortunately, misleading information has fueled fear and confusion about the bill. I've decided to withdraw AB 1333 from further consideration once it's referred to committee on Thursday and has been amended to clarify items that cause confusion. Okay, so number one, he admits that he put things in a bill because it was poorly written that has, quote, confused everybody. There is no confusion. He's outright not telling the truth to anybody. He sought to weaken the Castle Doctrine. It gives you the right to defend your home. He sought to weaken your ability to defend yourself, your loved ones, your property, your home, etc. He's guilty of all those things. And what he's trying to do is amend the bill to make it look like, oh, I was clarifying. See, that was never my intent. Too late. We already knew what your intent was. We hit you on the intent. And if you ever try to bring this back, we're going to remember this bill and we're going to bring that back to the forefront because it's now out in the open. This should never see the light of day, and we're going to continue on our mission to make sure it doesn't.
Yeah, and looking at some of the specifics in this bill, it seemed really bad. You're sort of mentioning it here. It straight took out the language allowing for justifiable homicide in defense of your property or habitation. Regardless of what the Moms Demand Action fact sheet says about how this doesn't affect the Castle Doctrine, taking that language out does exactly that. And there were a couple other things, putting in the duty to retreat. Also, the opportunity to be judged after the fact of whether or not you use a reasonable amount of force was also put in the bill. or would have been put into the law, just made this thing really bad. And it sounds like the pressure kind of came down on Zber. He tries to save face a little bit, but really not really, right? Like you and I can both look at him. That's basically what you're saying. We're not going to forget this in case he tries to bring it back. So what exactly is that process for a legislator? I know that several sheriffs came out immediately on this against it. We've been trying to build that coalition like you were talking about. He probably received a lot of heat. That actually on the last video that we did, we were commenting on how he had stated he was going to amend the bill. And he made a couple of comments there. So what's the process of that for the legislator last night when it was being pulled?
Well, the process, it was actually, there was a lot of pushing. They were supposed to have what's called a fact sheet out. What they were doing was using surrogates. And I want to point that out. When a office writes a bill, and we work with lots of offices on bills to be written both pro 2A and against the Second Amendment to try to get them knocked out, it's not uncommon, especially by this time in the season, for them to produce the actual fact sheet or a draft fact sheet, at least, so you can write your letters of opposition before you go to committee meetings. And we kept pressuring the staff. And there's some good staff members in Zber's office. I don't agree with them on a lot of things, but they're good people as far as doing their work. They had nothing. They were using outside surrogates, which tells us two things. Number one, this bill was not created in Zber's office. It was being authored and floated by Zber, but it was created by groups like Moms That Demand Action, Giffords, the usual anti-Second Amendment crowd. I think it's important, though, because they inserted early on into this fight Kyle Rittenhouse, Kevin. And one of the things that Zber said this morning on X was AB 13.3 was never intended to limit a crime victim's right to defend yourself, your family, or home, which is a bold-faced lie. They did exactly those things. But he goes on to say the goal was to prevent wannabe vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse from provoking violence and claiming self-defense after the fact. We will amend the bill to make this crystal clear. So a couple things on that. Number one, Kyle Rittenhouse was running. He was doing exactly what the member wants people to do when he was being attacked and was forced to defend himself or possibly lose his life. So that was proven to courts. Secondly, Kyle Rittenhouse happened not in California. It happened all the way on the other side of the country, in Kenosha. So why do we have a bill in California on this? And this comes to the thing that I've said to you several times in this program. We have legislators that have literally ran out of turf, and so they try to create it by playing like it's Minority Report in California. Well, it could happen one day here, so we need a bill against it. No, we don't, because when they write those bills aren't to protect you from vigilantes. They're to further weaken the law-abiding, tax-paying citizen of the state, the ability to exercise their constitutional rights to defend themselves. And that is what we pointed out. That's what we will continue to point out. There is no reason for this kind of legislation to go. In fact, in a California that has become much more dangerous, much more susceptible to violence, it is more important than ever that you have the ability to defend those you love and yourself.
Yeah, and like we discussed also, it's very difficult to assess the amount of force that you can use or whether or not the duty to retreat can even be accomplished to escape that sort of violence. So you're really not taking yourself or anybody else out of danger by trying to do these things. And these are classical arguments because this has been argued before. So it's good to be able to point it out. It's good to garner that much support so quickly. I guess that's kind of where another one of my questions comes in. Like that, we don't normally see bills of this magnitude get defeated so quickly. What are we looking for the rest of the legislature now? We were kind of, I mean, I know that we do focus on other bills, so it's not like we're not working on those, but we did have a heavy focus on that one. Do we try to take some of that energy and put it into other bills? There's no way that this can come back, right, with a spot bill or anything like that?
So, okay, so two things. I'm going to reverse order. Can it come back? Yes. Will it come back? Oh, most definitely. They're going to try this in somewhere else. They have now exposed their next line of attack. We know it's going to come back. But they're gonna probably do the same thing they did this. It's not going to be an outright, hey, Castle Doctrine bill. It's not going to be an outright self-defense bill. They're going to try to hide it. They're going to try to sneak it under the line, which is why we have to work within our coalition to be ever vigilant, and that's what coalition partners are today. I was just on a phone call with several of them before I came here to do this video with you. We are looking for them to do that. We now know what part of their playbook is. Will they do it this session? Probably not. Well, it might sneak in during the election year. Maybe, maybe not. But 27, there's no way I would place a bet with you, Kevin, that we wouldn't be looking this in 27 again. So part of it's keeping the coalition together. Part of it is there is a turn in the tide. I keep saying this on your program and other programs on the radio show. The tide is turned, and our community needs to wake up and realize that. And it's time to join this tide, because when you look at all the diverse groups from across the country that have come together on this, that is the kind of political weight that is needed to take California back. That's what we're doing. One bill at a time, one regulation, one policy, and one political office at a time. We're winning on all those fronts. And so this is a time to be happy because, well, we're winning. And we're going to continue to win by continuing to mobilize in this fashion.
And we've said it plenty of times already this year. We do have a lot of support behind us. Now is the time to make gains while we have people in office that can help us do it. So final thoughts, Rick, final thoughts on the win, final thoughts on the outlook of the legislature this year in the months to come.
It's going to be completely contentious, but we've got a lot more on our side than we've ever had before. And like you just said, we're bringing that to bear. And if you like being part of a winning team, now's the time to saddle up, join us, because our people don't just sit and write checks or say, yeah, at the tailgate. Our people are actually meeting in offices, working together, and are part of a very physical, a very real team. I want to thank all of our coalition partners. Without the police unions, the State Sheriff's Association, local boards of supervisors, city councils, and people up and down the line, and our incredible volunteers that make up our legislative teams, this victory might not have happened. But that coalition of everyone working together for a single purpose shows that Californians can come together and can win. And to our out-of-state partners for realizing you got to kill this in California first, thank you for stepping up to the plate.
And there's the plug right there, right? Capitol Day is coming up. I know that the seats are the spots are limited, and it's already set for this year. But guys, if you didn't know, for the last 3 years, CRPA has been creating groups of people to go up to Sacramento to advocate to these legislators, Republican and Democrats, for Californians' gun rights. Prior to those last 3 years, nobody was doing this. So this is definitely changing the tide in Sacramento. I talk to Rick all the time about how beneficial this is to have citizens advocate to their legislators in their office, and we're going to keep doing it. Rick, I want to thank you for taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. Thanks for coming on and sharing with us today.
It was an absolute pleasure to be on today.
Absolutely. And guys, as always, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to these videos, especially if you like and appreciate these videos. We're trying to educate as much as we can on the litigative, legislative, and programmatic efforts for the Second Amendment throughout the state. It really helps get this message out as far and wide as possible. And if we're going to continue to build these coalitions, we need that message out there and for everybody to be on the same platform of information. So one more time, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you on the next one.